So tonight we're doing how to find your psychic self. Dum 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 dum. So this is where I get the dramatic music, and being something talking about psychic. When you come into the room, if you'd be kind enough to turn your microphone off, that'd be great. Talking about psychic, what is psychic? So tonight we're going to go through what is being psychic, and then the various different types of professional psychics, what they get up to. We've got 3 example charts, and we're going to end with a chart for very kindly a lady that I know that's local to me that is a professional psychic has agreed to share her chart, so we'll be talking about her chart as well, and then we'll go into how to find that information out in your own chart. So what is being psychic? Being psychic is sometimes called the sixth sense. Our physical senses are hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, and touch. The sixth sense is being able to intuit something. It's also called ESP, extrasensory perception. So there are different types of psychic. There's clairaudience, so these people that hear things, so they'll hear a voice or they'll hear a sound. There's clairvoyance, and that's the one that most people have heard of. So this is the being able to see things. So this is somebody that will have an image in their mind and then they'll be able to describe it. There's clairsentience, which is a feeling one. There's claircognizance, which is knowing, and clairgustance, which is tasting, and clairalience, which is smelling. Can't say that I know anybody that can do those bottom 3, but apparently they exist. I do know a lady called Nancy Ann Tapp who had she had a condition, synesthesia, which meant that she would taste colours and smell pictures, so she had all her senses muddled up, and she wrote a lovely book called Understanding Your Life Through Colour, and it was her that developed the concept of indigos, but I'll be going off at a tangent if I talk about that. But she did have her senses muddled up, but that's the psychic type of senses: hearing, seeing, feeling, knowing, tasting, smelling. So is there evidence for psychic ability? Well, you'd be pleased to know that yes, there is. There's extensive research on people's ability to do things only with their minds. And there's a chap called Dean Radin, who I've been following for absolutely ages, and I've read some of his books, which I will stick up to the camera when we get to the end. He's a researcher and author of Real Magic, Supernormal, The Noetic Universe, and Entangled Minds, and has a complete list of past and current research on PSI. So what I'll do at the end of today's session, if you want to have the PowerPoint, just email me and I'll email it back to you. So anybody that comes this evening, just ping me over the email. I'll send you back tonight's PowerPoint, so you'll be able to get that link to get all the information that Dean has done over the years about psychic ability. Now, he's a proper researcher and he works at the Noetic Institute in America, and he sticks electrodes on people's heads and gets them to do stuff and records it, and he's been doing it for absolutely yonks. But that link there will take you to all the research that he's done. So if anybody tells you, oh, psychic's a load of blah-de-blah, please point them to that website and to that link. So there are 2 types of Psi phenomena. This is according to Dean Radin. He's actually a Pisces, and he calls himself a parapsychologist. So that's perceiving objects or events beyond the range of ordinary senses, or being able to mentally causing an action at a distance, such as praying, sending Reiki, or willing the recovery of someone and they get better quicker. So those are the 2 major forms of psychic phenomena that have been included in research. And obviously in his books he goes into other details about the different types of things that can happen, but also part of the work that he did was for the American government, and they did a thing called remote viewing, and he did the research in that. The government doesn't do it anymore, but they did it at one point when they were trying to find out what was happening with the Russians, and they had people that could see in their minds various different things going on. So he worked for the government at that point. So that's just part of his blurb. So my thoughts are, I think everyone has some psychic ability. However, whether or not you'll end up on Oprah demonstrating that has more to do with your marketing and self-promotion skills than anything else. Not every psychic is famous. So there are different types of psychic occupations. There's a medium, someone who contacts the other side to get messages from people who have died. That's probably the most well-known type of psychic person. And then there are people that call themselves psychic, someone who senses things and knows things about you that other people couldn't know. Now, just as a little codicil there, it can seem as if you visited a psychic when you're going to see a good astrologer and they look at your chart and they go, oh, you've got moon in Virgo, do you write in lists? And they'll go, oh, how did you know that? That's not actually a psychic ability, but people could easily confuse it with that. So we are going to be talking about the astrology of psychic ability, but remembering, of course, that when someone comes for an astrological consultation, your ability to tell them so much about themselves could seem as if it's psychic, which it's not. It's just, not just, but it's a factual thing. So where do we look in an astro chart for anything to do with psychic at all? So we need to start with Neptune. We need sign, house location, and aspects to or from. As Neptune is the planet that has now been determined or decided in the astrological community as the one that denotes a psychic ability, which we all have. We're all going to have Neptune in our charts. But you also need to consider Jupiter, the sign, house location, aspects to and from. Now, are there three houses that are more likely to indicate, depending on what's going on in your chart, but three houses that are more demonstrative of psychic ability? So that's the 12th house, that's the hidden house, the bit that other people don't see, which is equivalent to the sign of Pisces, because that's the 12th sign of the zodiac. The 8th house, which is sex, birth, reincarnation, and all the mystical stuff goes on in the 8th, which is equivalent to, but not the same as, the sign Scorpio. And the 3rd house, because the 3rd house is about communication. So when we're considering our own chart and what our psychic ability might be, keep those houses in mind. But you'll see as we go along that there are other things that happen. Now, there are two signs of the zodiac that are more able, more inclined, or more interested in psychic stuff, and they're Scorpio and Pisces. Now, that's not to say that people that are other sun signs of the zodiac aren't interested in it or do it, but they're just the two major signs, because Pisces is ruled by Neptune and Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. I mean, you could sort of make an argument for Sagittarius being ruled by Jupiter, but just as the two signs of the zodiac that are most likely to be interested in it at all are Scorpio and Pisces. But don't rule out the other signs of the zodiac. I'll come on to more of that in a minute. So we're going to use some famous example charts, and I'm going to start with Edgar Casey is how you pronounce his surname. You might or might not have heard of him. If you're a tad older and you're my age, you probably will have done. If you're a bit younger, you might not have done. He was born on the 18th of March in 1877. Now, there's some controversy over his actual time of birth. There's some conflicting reports, so I'll show both charts. There's not an awful lot of difference between the two. It's the difference between 130, I think, and 350. And he was nicknamed the Sleeping Prophet, and he gave over 14,000 readings. Now, those readings are recorded, and what he did was, long story short, because I've put a link there all about his life so you can read up, and I haven't got time this evening to go into this whole life, but what he used to do was, the reason he got into it is he met a hypnotherapist at one point, somebody was into hypnosis, and he learned how to go into a trance, and he did that because he'd lost his voice and he was trying to regain his voice. But afterwards he discovered that when he was in a trance, he'd sort of come out with all this blurb, and so what he'd do is go into a trance, and he had a stenographer, so that's sort of like a person that writes down everything you say using a certain machine. They use them in law courts, I think that's right. And he had this lady that used to write down stuff. So he's in the trance, he's laid out on a couch somewhere, and they'd then read out to him some details of someone who was sick. Most of the readings that he did were help people that weren't well. And then in his trance he'd say, I think this person needs to do this, that and the other, and eat this and go here and have this form of therapy or whatever. That's the majority of the readings that he did with that. But the 14,000 readings that he's done, that's a phenomenal amount. Okay, there's only 365 days in the year, are recorded on his website, which I think is called ARC or ARE. I've got the details of it in a minute. He was pretty famous. So let me get his chart up, the two charts I've got, because they won't show up in the PowerPoint and I've got to make them a bit bigger. So this is chart number one. This is the one that I think is more true to him. So we'll do chart number one first. So here he is, and he made a living doing this. He didn't particularly want to. He started out, he was, I don't think he did very well at school. He didn't have any money, blah, 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 blah. He never charged for anything for a long amount of time. And then as his life progressed, he eventually opened a hospital, and people visited there, but I think he ran out of money a couple of times. And in the end, he trained to be a photographer, because he could do that legitimately, because at that point in time in America, fortune tellers were being prosecuted and imprisoned. So he opened up a photography studio, which unfortunately twice got burnt down, and he did his readings sort of in his spare time and never charged. I don't think he ever did charge towards the end, but people would give money and donations. But anyway, here we go. So we have Moon conjunct Neptune, because first of all we've got to look at where's the psychic ability happening in his chart. So there's his moon, moon's how we feel. There's Neptune, the psychic planet. The moon represents the subconscious. How did he tap into Neptune? This is astrology now. He went into a trance. He was partially asleep. So you got the moon and Neptune conjunct there. So his sun sign Pisces, a whole chunk of planets in Pisces, Mercury in Pisces, Leo ascendant. I'll talk about it a bit more in a minute, but you can't make a living being a psychic if you're shy. He obviously wasn't, because the Leo ascendant, even though the two different times we've got. So if I compare that now, so the sun is in the 8th house. Okay, so that's the other thing you need to point out. Sun in the 8th, in the sign of Pisces, moon conjunct Neptune. So that's chart number one. And then in the other one, which is slightly different because there's a bit of a disagreement about what's his actual time of birth. I don't know why they don't get his birth certificate, must be knocking about somewhere. But as you see, there's not a lot in it. Chart shape's still the same. It's still a bucket. You've got the sun and a whole cluster of planets in chart number 2 that's in the 8th. The moon and Neptune obviously can still be conjunct. But in chart number 1, the moon and Neptune and Pluto are conjunct the MC, and the MC is the career part of your chart. So personally, I think chart number 1's more likely, that one, but whichever. And Uranus is hidden in the 12th house. So he was concerned about, Uranus is about unusual happenings and sudden happenings. I mean, I think he actually died of a stroke eventually in his 60s. He worked too much and too hard, and he wore himself out. Let me tell you this, just as a thing to keep in mind, that your average psychic or medium don't tend to live very long. Okay, I haven't found one yet that lived to be very old, so I don't really recommend it as a job. So there we've got the sun, a whole cluster of planets in the 8th for chart number 2, but whichever way we look at it, because there's not a lot of difference, there's no difference in chart shape, it's still a bucket. He's got a cluster, he's got the moon conjunct Neptune, and his way of getting to his psychic ability was to go into a sleeping state, a hypnosis state, and then be asked questions, and then it would be his subconscious that was giving the answers. And apparently there were a lot of people that were perfectly happy with what he did, and like anything in this field, there'll be plenty of people that thought he was rubbish, but he managed to make a success in his lifetime, enough that he became famous doing it. So that's chart number 1. Chart number 2, they'll be in the PowerPoint when I send it to you. So the summary of the chart. So it's definitely a Leo ascendant, which would be necessary to lead a public life, bucket-shaped chart. Sun sign Pisces, more inclined to like PSI, not necessarily be good at it, but to be interested in it. Dean Radin, by the way, who's spent his whole life researching it, is a Pisces himself. And we've got moon in Taurus, conjunct Neptune, that's the unconscious psychic bit. In both charts, the sun's in the 8th, which is the house of sex, birth, reincarnation, that's the mystical house. And in chart 1, Moon and Pluto are conjunct the MC. Now, he died on the 3rd of January 1945 after suffering a stroke the year before, and he was survived by his son, who was also a Pisces, and continued with his organisation, which is called the Association for Research and Enlightenment, shortened to ARE, and the link is to the website there. It still exists. I have no idea who runs it now. I don't think it's a member of the family. It could be. Don't quote me. Now, chart number 2, you might have heard of him. It's a guy called John Edward. He's a TV personality. So he's a TV medium. So he's been on Oprah and a whole host of other places. He didn't start out life. Not many people do start their lives out as a psychic medium. And he has Sun in Libra, conjunct Jupiter. Now, his job's slightly different from Edgar Casey. Edgar Casey concentrated mostly on giving people medical advice. He didn't claim to be a doctor, but people that were very sick would go and get info from him. John Edward mostly works with people that have passed. He does the classic thing. Audience of people will call out, I have the initial J and I have a man who died of a heart attack. Does that resonate with anybody? I don't know if you've ever been to see a medium, but that's generally how it works. And then a member of the audience will say, yes, that's me. That's my granddad. He was called John and he died of a heart attack, type of thing. He's pretty good. I've seen quite a few of his demonstrations, but it isn't whether or not, I'm not trying to prove this evening whether or not he is or isn't any good at his job. He is coming under the banner of saying that he is and working as one. Trust me, it ain't easy doing that type of job. If you're spending all day using your psychic ability to the exclusion of having a regular life. I mean, luckily this chap's got a wife and kids, and so did Edgar Casey for that matter. And he's got a whole cluster of planets in the 11th. His Neptune, I mean, this is his exact birth time. So I've got this from Astro.com. This is his exact birth time here. So this is not an estimated chart. He's got a Scorpio ascendant. So again, Scorpio is more interested in this type of stuff. And Neptune is in the 12th house. Neptune's very, very happy being in the 12th. Anybody here tonight who's got Neptune in the 12th house, doesn't matter what sign it's in, you will more than likely have more of a psychic ability than your average punter who hasn't. Moon in Aquarius, which is a bit wacky. And then you'd have to also take into account when you're considering your own chart, which we'll do later on, what aspects is Neptune making to everything else in your chart. And in John's case, he's got Neptune's making a jolly nice sextile to his Venus. He's written a number of books about his experiences, how he got to where he is, blah, blah, blah. And in his case, his is the Sun and Jupiter is the signature of what it is he does. He firmly believes that what he's doing is contacting the other side. There's no way of proving that. And he's got the Neptune in the 12th house there. Okay, so that to my mind is the signature of it. But where you've got friendly aspects, the moon is doing some jolly friendly aspects to an awful lot of things other than his Neptune. The Neptune only makes one aspect, which is to his Venus. And Venus is the ruling planet to Libra, if you want to go into further things about what you can and can't do with the chart. So he's a psychic medium, TV celeb, author of Afterlife, Crossing Over an Infinite Quest, locomotive shaped chart, Scorpio ascendant, Sun, Libra, conjunct Jupiter, Neptune and Scorpio in the 12th house, big cluster of planets in the 11th, and he tends to work in groups. Now, if you go to his website and you want to book a one-on-one session with him, it'll cost you $850. If you want to do a group, he does group work. And I think it's 12 people you need to jiggle together, and that's still $800 and something. But when he does his shows, which he also does, he does them all online now because of the pandemic. And when he does his sort of, when he does his work, it is in groups that he'll do it. He doesn't do a lot of one-on-one. I only work, my job is one-on-one. I don't do group work other than teaching astrology, but even that I do one-on-one. So just to keep in mind that the fact that he's got all those planets in the 11th, that's how he likes to work, because he's doing this for a living. Okay, so people, when they do something for a living, they've got to believe in it and believe in their own self and their ability, etc. but you've got to sort of think, you know, where is he manifesting whatever it is that he's up to. So next person we're going to talk about now, this is a lovely lady called Nikki, and she lives in Bristol, which is just down the road from me, and she has very, very kindly agreed to have us discuss her chart. I've taken all her data off because it's none of your business when she was actually born. I'm sure she wouldn't mind, but yeah. And she and I met when she ran healing centre called the Indigo Centre just outside Bristol, so that was quite a while ago. And she's an indigo, so she knows that she's an indigo. She was born when Uranus and Neptune were pretty close together. They're adjacent signs here. She's got very much a one-sided chart with Jupiter on the other side there, and she has made a living being, again, she's a medium, so I think she calls herself a psychic medium. She does do psychic readings as well and a bit of kinesiology and stuff. But again, she is someone who has devoted her life to working in mediumship, and I've had readings with her, and as I say, I've worked alongside her, and I know that what she does is pretty good. And her psychic abilities are pretty much tip top. And again, she's got Neptune in the 12th house. Neptune's happy there. Again, she's Sun in Libra, just like our previous example. And in her case, she got Sun conjunct Pluto. Okay, so that's a little bit more tricky as a conjunction, because Pluto's about deep change and transformation. And she's definitely done that in her life. She's like the caterpillar and the butterfly. She's totally changed an awful lot of what she does from where she started to where she is now. Uranus is on the MC. She had for a while, she was almost like a gypsy going up and down the UK. For a while she had a TV programme, and there might still be a YouTube video of her walking around a few parks in Bristol and just randomly going up to blokes that are sitting there having their lunch and saying, you've got this, that and the other wrong with you, and what about this? And they're sort of going like, how did you know this? And it really is random stuff. And for a short amount of time, I'm sure she was some paranormal TV programs she was on as well, but she's pretty good at what she does. Mercury's on the MC as well, and Uranus is there as well, so there's a lot of movement in her job. She doesn't stay stationary, she shifts about a bit. Uranus is about sudden change, and the MC is the career. She's got Moon in Virgo, so that's a very sensitive moon sign, but as I say, the Sun is in Libra. There's nothing in the 3rd. There's Saturn in the 8th, so she's got Saturn in the sign of Leo in the 8th, so that's a fixed sign with the 8th house. So she's got planets in the 12th and planets in the 8th, so that adds to her psychic ability, if we want to use that as an expression. And Saturn's in a fixed sign in Leo, so she does take seriously the other side. I mean, that's the majority of what she does. She works with people whose friends, relatives, whatever, have passed over. So Sagittarius ascendant, Sun, Libra conjunct Pluto in the 10th house of career. So she's made a career. Similar to John, he's made a career, but his, as I say, Sun's in the 11th. It's all about groups. Hers is in the 10th. So it's taken her a while to get where she is. It was a long journey to be able to get to that. She's had to do lots of stuff that's happened in the meantime. But she's pretty good at what she does. Neptune's in Sagittarius in the 12th and forms a nice sextile to her sign. So that's a nice friendly aspect. So let me just show you that again. So there's Neptune, sextile to her sun sign. So there's her sun up there, there's the aspect here. Okay, it does both of them, it does Pluto as well. And then you can confirm that by, you know, because when we're doing your chart, we need to look at what aspects is your Neptune making, which planet is it contacting, how might you be able to access your psychic self. So you check down, where's your Neptune, badump, there it is. We've got Neptune, there's the Sun, okay, so it makes a nice sextile. Now, unfortunately, in her chart, she's also got a square to the Moon and a square to Venus. She does question what she does. You know, that's a side effect of what she does. So it took her a long time to confirm to herself that she had this ability. Do you see what I mean? So when you've got a square in there, the square is going to be like, oh, are you sure you're capable of doing that? But then, you know, the information just flows. And she's typical in the way that a medium works, is she would just say what comes into her head. I don't want to put it like that, comes into her head like she's just talking out of the back of her brain. But the way that mediumship works is that you don't filter, you're tuning into whatever's happening. But she's got a nice sextile there between the Sun and Neptune. So thank you, Nikki. So finding your psychic self, you need to look for Pisces and Scorpio. You need to look for Neptune and Jupiter. Which house are they in? What aspects? And are you more likely to feel, see, sense, or hear things? So the earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. The air signs are Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. The fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And the water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Now the earth signs sense, the air signs hear, the fire signs see, and the water signs feel. So you could have a psychic experience in any one of those elements, earth, air, fire, water. You could also have it with any one of those senses there. So any one of those ones that we talked about at the beginning, clairaudience, clairvoyance, etc. And the friendly aspects, because that's what you're looking for in Nikki's chart. Unfortunately, she's got some squares, so she's questioned what she's done. Not that's a bad thing. But it makes it easier if you've got friendly aspects, sextile, trine, a conjunction depending on the planet. If you've got Sun conjunct Neptune, really you need to be grounded occasionally. I've got numbers of clients and friends that have Sun conjunct Neptune in Scorpio, because that happened quite a while back in the 60s. You do need to learn how to ground yourself if you do have that yourself. So thank you. Big thanks to Nikki for sharing her chart. You can find her, there's her website, Nikki Stargazer, and that's my website address there. So thank you. I shall just come out of screen share and you may turn everything on. There we go. Right then, first person, hit me with your question.
Mary, I'm curious. I have a lot of squares with Neptune. I have Neptune conjunct my ascendant in my first house. I'm also a Pisces sun sign, so strong Neptune, I guess, for that reason. And I'm a Sagittarius rising, so Jupiter is pretty meaningful also.
Where's Jupiter? What sign is he in?
I just had that. Let me pull it back up. Jupiter is in my 12th house.
Okay, and then you got Neptune on the ascendant as well.
Neptune on, so my ascendant's at 20 degrees Sagittarius and Neptune's at 28 degrees Sagittarius.
Yeah, you see, you're going to pick up stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And the squares, what?
So Neptune is right now, or when I was born, it was squaring Mars, Venus, and my moon.
When you were born, or it's happening actually now, when you were born. Yeah, see, you've got a similar problem. I don't use the word problem. You've got a similar thing to what Nikki has, that she's got her Neptune square to her moon. So it's the questioning of it. Not the questioning is a bad thing, but you need to work. And this is the podcast, the last podcast I did, the penultimate podcast I did, not the last one, the one before, about finding the positives in the chart and building them up, rather than knocking yourself down with those squares. Yeah, ignore the squares. Don't allow the squares to manifest if you want to be able to work on increasing your psychic ability. Now, I've got to put a codicil in there. Just because someone is psychic doesn't give them rulership of the world. Yeah, it's not just another sense. It is another sense that we all have, but some people can use it to the exclusion of everything else. They can be so psychic they're meditating 24/7. They never eat, and their children go wild. Do you know what? You have to live on planet Earth here. But your ascendant sounds like it's squaring to your sun sign as well, is it?
My ascendant is...
How many degrees is your Sagittarius ascendant?
20 degrees Sag, and then my sun is 10 degrees Pisces. So
okay, it's out of orb. Right, that's okay.
yeah.
But that would be a bit yucky if your ascendant was squaring to your sun sign, because you'd be putting that out into the world and then you'd be over here sort of like, but
Well, I do feel like I do have a lot of psychic abilities and like very intuitive, but I think with Neptune and the squares, I wonder, I'm also very fearful and anxious and almost like delusional. And like, I know the negative part of Neptune could be like delusions. And, you know, sometimes I think it's hard for me to open up myself in that capacity because I'm fearful that I'm starting to lose my mind.
exactly. So that you need to do it in little bits, you know, people that, I mean, if you've ever, I can't do that. I couldn't leave myself open to what everybody thought 24/7. I would absolutely lose the plot. So I've been doing this job for a hell of a long time, and I don't profess to be an enormous psychic. I do a psychic reading, but my psychic comes out by using the cards. I'm not sitting there. I don't know how people do that. They just sit there and then they tune in. I need to have something to do. I've got Moon in Gemini. But I hear what you're saying. If you spend all day in a psychic state, it's the same if you meditated all day, you will absolutely lose the plot. Yeah. So it's doing it in little bits. You know, you need to do what's best for you. What sign's your moon?
Libra, right on. That's conjunct my MC.
Your natal moon is conjunct to MC in Libra. Okay, so it's about indecision. So when you're worried, you'll be indecisive. When you're under stress, you'll go to Saggy. So those bits of your chart need to be satisfied as well. But hearing what you're saying about your Neptune and your Jupiter, don't fret about them, but don't put too much attention onto the squares. Yeah, but the moon. Moon in Libra needs Slorenthus is the batch flower remedy for that, just to stop you from being indecisive when you're stressed, because you go, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I, ooh, and then you get frozen, you can't do anything, which is horrible.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And you said that it does. You said the two houses. I missed the 8th and the 12th. What was the other house?
Third, house of communication. Yeah.
So that's where my son is too. So
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to communicate. I've got my Neptune in the third. So it's the house of siblings. It's the house of communication. So yeah, I have to communicate, but I don't spend all day being in a trance. I haven't got what Edgar Casey had with the moon. Oh, that is lovely. Moon conjunct Neptune, he goes into a trance. So I looked at that Astro and I go, yeah, that is the signature. I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's just take it a little bit at a time. Just practice it a bit, and is allowing things. Where we've got squares, we're like, oh, having to go at us now. Focus on the sextiles and the trines. Go, yeah, that's a good bit of my chart. You know, why do we want to point out the negatives all the time? Me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Why won't this work?
You're there, Becky. I can hear you. Oh, that's it. Turn it back on again.
Oh, I'm trying.
You're
there we go.
Yeah, Mercury Retrograde. What am I doing a psychic evening during a Mercury Retrograde? I must be
bonkers. I was just like, why won't this unmute? Sorry. I think I was not on mute half of the recording as well, but never mind.
Okay,
so
right, go.
I was trying to be quiet. I just wasn't. Yeah, it's a very old iPad. My Neptune is in the second house. It's in Saggy in the second house.
Yep.
So I just want, but it's not in a particularly, like, second house isn't one of the psychic houses particularly. Saggy is definitely not one of those. It's not Scorpio or Pisces, put it that way. But I have found it interesting that I do tarot and astrology for money.
You've got Neptune in the second?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where it needs to be.
Okay.
Because it's not about, don't worry about that. That was almost like a prejudice to say Scorpio Pisces. Do you know? I said I didn't know whether or not to put it or not, but it's just that it's just that in the work that I do, I've come across more signs of Scorpio and Pisces than any other sign of the zodiac. So I think they slightly outnumber the other signs, but it doesn't have to be those houses either. It's just pay attention to what house it's in. Yeah. So where your psychic ability is that you can make money via it. Yeah. So that's where your acceptance needs to be. So what aspects is it making? So it's in Saggy. Give us a positive aspect, please.
It is. Oh, well, here's that stellium in the 12th house, isn't there? it is sextile to I'm just trying to see how many planets it is. Sun, Jupiter, Ascendant, Pluto. Well, how many of them does it count as being sextile to? Because there's so many lines.
Look at bottom right-hand side of your bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Look into the grid, the bottom right, and see.
Where am I looking? I've got a really old printout to stop me going in between the electronic. Oh, that's annoying.
Okay, so your Neptune makes a trine to your
1,
Mars.
2, 3, and the top one. Hang on. Sorry.
Okay, Neptune makes a trine to your Jupiter. Sorry, it makes a sextile to your Jupiter and a trine to your Mars.
In the chart, but it's not sextile to Mercury. I don't understand this. Definitely the Sun. There's 3 lines. It's got to be the Sun, Jupiter, and the Ascendant. It's got to be those 3.
Yeah. Look in the grid because the lines don't always work because it's a computer.
Yeah, but the grid says that it's.
Hold on, let me grab your chart. Where have I hidden it? I've probably got it on my computer somewhere.
I don't know.
Let's have a look. Hold on.
The grid, from what I can see, because I've printed it out and it has printed weirdly.
Are you Becky C?
Yeah, it says the Sun and then it says.
Hold it.
Jupiter.
Right, let's have
a look. That's right. The Sun and Jupiter, and then the Ascendant's there.
You've got Sun conjunct Jupiter. What are you on about? You're the same as a John Edwards chap.
Yeah, in the 12th house as well. In Libra.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah. So you've got your sun sign sandwiched in between Saturn and Jupiter. Now he's just got Sun conjunct Jupiter, but you've got Saturn in the mix as well. So it's about needing to make it real. But how can you make it real when it's in the 12th house? That's the existential question, life, the universe, and everything. You never get the answer to it. But you've got your sun sign sandwiched between those two in the 12th house. So Sun in the 12th. So you're already in the 12th house now. So you can do dreams, you can do all that other SHIT that Pisces can type of thing. Your Jupiter's conjunct your ascendant, but your Neptune's in your second, but you've also got Uranus in there. We'll forget that. But your Neptune's aspects are, your Neptune is sextile to your Jupiter, trine to your Mars, and another sextile to your sun sign. La la la. Ignore the square to the moon. You've got the same thing that Ignore. So you've got Neptune makes a nice sextile to your sun sign. You can do it.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. And then I've got a Pisces moon as well amongst all that.
Poor love. Never mind.
I know. We've all got good and bad, Mary. We've all got good and bad. Okay, I thought with the Neptune, because it was in that second house, I thought, and with it being Saggy, I thought, oh no, but it was just to do with money, really, more than anything else.
Well, no, it's not, because if you can make a living doing it, because you're already doing readings, yes?
Yeah, I do already.
Exactly. So there's nothing to worry about.
Cheaply, but yeah.
Yeah, you've got to start work out. But watch out about the Neptune making the square to the moon, okay? Yeah. Because you're going, you're not earning enough, or we need to charge more, or hey, why not be like John Edwards, charge $850 for a session?
Yes, that is what I want to do. Yeah, can't help it. I'm just greedy.
You've got your Mercury in Scorpio retrograde.
Yeah.
Okay, so allow that little bit of play as well. What's that aspecting? Oh, it's square to Neptune. Oh.
No, it's not. It's not square Neptune.
That's your moon square Neptune. Sorry, your Mercury's conjunct Pluto. Pluto conjunct. Right. Okay.
No. Hang on.
Yes. Mercury's conjunct Pluto.
Pluto's at 12 degrees Libra. It's because I've got such a stellium. It looks like it is, but it's so Pluto's at 24 degrees of Libra, and Mercury's 2 degrees of Scorpio.
So that's 8 degrees away. Still a conjunction.
Do you count that?
Well, it's out of sign, but Astro.com will do it mathematically. 8 degrees. It's still an orb.
Okay. I see.
Yeah, but work with the sun making the nice sextile to Neptune and just relax into it. It's not a competition.
It's all a competition, Mary.
But you've got the moon in the fifth. Okay, so the fifth is about creativity and romance,
Yes.
and the moon's not so happy in the fifth. The sun's happy in the fifth, but the moon might feel a little fried, and it's in a water sign as well. So you need to have something else other than that, something the recreational that isn't work to keep the moon happy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And something dreamy and crystal-like and Piscean type thing.
Oh, I'm knitting. I'm learning to knit at the minute. So there you go. There's a nice,
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a nice creative, outlet.
Yep, that'll do it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
To you.
Anybody else like to ask a question? Got your chart? Ask me a question.
Hi, Mary. I would like to ask a question. So I don't know if it's like related to being like to sort of psychic abilities, but since lockdown started, I have been getting like a few days, like relatively often, where I have tinnitus and I can smell something that I know isn't there. And obviously, like the sound isn't there either. So I don't know if it's like, well, I don't know, maybe if there's anything you could recommend about like feeding your sort of psychic self or like working with your psychic abilities in a positive way.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can do that. So where's your Neptune?
So my Neptune's 4 degrees away from my sun in the second house and in Capricorn.
Okay, so like mine's gone blank. Like Becky just then, she's got her Neptune in the second. You've got yours in the second as well.
Very, I think quite similar charts. Yeah, so yeah, in the second, Sun conjunct Neptune in Capricorn, yeah.
Right, okay. As I was saying earlier, people that have got Sun conjunct Neptune need to make sure that you're grounding yourself. Okay, so Becky's just got her Neptune in the second, but you've got your Sun conjunct Neptune. Okay, so that's part of the stellium of planets that the indigo thing. So what sign's your Uranus in? Is that also in Capricorn?
Yeah, it's Uranus, Neptune, the Sun, and Saturn are all in Capricorn.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the stellium. That's you're a 90s baby, yes?
I am.
Yeah. Okay, 90s babies had the stellium. Okay, so but the thing is, you see, on the indigos, they're slightly different from the other generations anyway, because of the Uranus-Neptune conjunction, because that only happens once every 170 years, yeah? So that's not an everyday thing. And what I wrote about in the Astrology of Indigos, the reason they need to be more psychic than other generations is because we'll probably not be able to communicate with each other face-to-face anymore, and then the bloody pandemic happened. I was thinking, oh, well, that was a good prediction then. Wasn't thinking about that. But the thing is, so going back to being able to develop it, with it being in the second, and the second is a practical house. So the second house is like the sign of Taurus, so practical things. And it's interesting that you're getting clairgustance, which is the smelling of things. So it's a random smell. So what I would recommend is to keep a journal and write down what you get and when you get it and the dates that you have it. And then if you're really into it, just check to see where the planets are. Might be some sort of transit that's triggering it. Maybe do it for the exact time that it happens at 7 p.m. blah, blah, blah was ascending, yeah? But don't ever try and suppress something that comes out as psychic. It really upsets me when I hear parents saying, oh, don't tell stories to little kiddies that go, but mummy, I've seen Granny in the corner. It's like, well, okay, great, tell me some more. That really upsets me when I hear people doing that. Equally, don't, as I mentioned earlier, don't spend all day in a state of meditation, because you'll forget to eat, and then that's bad for your mental health. Yeah. So with it being in the second, I mean, because it could manifest in lots of different ways. With it being in Capricorn, Capricorn's the sign of the goat. Capricorn's about later life, not youngness. Your Saturn's there as well, you know, so it's about being responsible with it, not irresponsible type of stuff. And you might find that you can make a living, because the second house is how we get our finances to it, using those abilities that you've got in some way with whatever work it is that you do. So whatever you decide to work to, you've got that. But to be able to use your psychic ability, just practice a bit. What does that smell remind you of? Because you're just stopping at the smell. Okay, the smell means nothing. You've got to go further.
Yeah, I mean, it's always about, it's a chemical smell.
Right.
Yeah, so it's always, it's like I can hear the electricity and I can smell chemicals. Like it's really horrible, actually, and very weird. So it's not like I sort of feel at one with anything.
No, exactly. And so that's why I'd say write it down and keep a record of it, because if it's not something that's filling you with joy, so you've got all those conjunctions. What other aspects in Neptune making? You've got a totally one-sided chart.
It's not. It's a bucket shaped chart. But my Sun and Neptune are squaring my moon. But I do also have Pluto in Scorpio in the 12th house as well.
I've got your chart. Hold on, let's have a look. See what's going on. You've also got the stellium in the second, and then you were saying Jupiter in
Leo.
In your 9th house, right? Okay, got that. And then you got Moon in Libra, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to have a word with your Moon. You got Sun Moon square. Yeah. So that's the eternal dilemma. I've got Sun Moon square. It's like my Moon's going, I don't like that. And my Sun's going, but I do. You know, so you're just telling yourself off. So you need to stop that immediately. But your Neptune's making aspects too. Let me zoom in, see where it's going. View, zoom in. Your Neptune. Oh, God, I'm going to zoom out. Neptune, how can we make your little Neptune feel better? And I'm not surprised that you're getting Augustry, because that's the second house, which is Taurus, and Taurus is a sign is into taste. Anyway, Neptune is conjunct the Sun, right? And that's, apart from the square to the Moon, that's what it's doing. Right then, okay, so I would probably recommend yoga and meditation. Not in any great degree, but in small amounts. And I definitely recommend to everybody, and oh God, I'm always talking about this one, that's the book you need to read, which is Real Magic. And he discusses in there, it's not about magic as in abracadabra, it's about the magic that's within the world. Anyway, that is the most fantastic book. That's the Dean Radin one. And then his other one is The Noetic Universe. So he's writing from the science point of view to how these things manifest in people. And then you just sort of, I would write it down, keep a record of it, you know. Just keep a journal for a few weeks and then read back over it and see if there's some sort of pattern that's happening. Do these smells come out more when I'm upset about blah, blah, blah? You know, what might it relate to? And then you'll start to probably build up a picture to it. And the other thing you've got going on, you've got a little bit of a distance between your sun sign and your Mercury. Your Mercury's miles away in Sagittarius. It's in your first house, you know, you've got that cluster in the second, and then Mercury's going, hello, and I don't think your Mercury does much in the way of aspects, does it?
Doesn't do anything,
no. And that Mercury's the thoughts, and it's in Saggy. And so your mind is continually getting distracted from whatever it is that you're up to. So anything that you can do to help focus your mind, which you only have to do 5 minutes a day worth of meditation. I'm not saying turn into a Tibetan monk. Those types of things will really help it. But don't allow yourself to get scared about it. Ping me over an email if it's driving you crazy, and we'll talk about it in a bit more detail, yeah?
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you very much, Mary.
You're welcome, no probs. Anybody else like to ask about their chart or ask a question?
Yes, please, Mary.
Go.
Okay, my Neptune is in Scorpio, which is the 7th house.
Yep.
I'm square the sun as well.
In
The sun is in the first Taurus.
Taurus, got ya. Okay, So Neptune's in Scorpio.
Yes.
Yes, you're going to be Scorpio, don't. Okay, so Neptune Scorpio in the 7th, and what other aspect does it make other than, so that's an opposition to your sun sign of the first house, not a square. Sure. Yeah. Okay. What other aspects does it make?
Opposition. Sorry, it's square Saturn in the 11th house in Aquarius.
Okay.
It's trine Jupiter.
Great.
Which is in the Pisces, the 11th house.
Fab. Friends. Okay, so don't do whatever you're doing psychically on your own. Your 11th house is friendships, because your Jupiter's located there. So you can benefit your friends in some way. And then you've got your Neptune in the 7th. The 7th is close to relationships and marriage, but it's also the house of relationships. So I've got Sun located there. Sun in Pisces in the 7th, and part of my job is working with people, you know, other people, relationships, counselling type of thing that comes up in astrology an awful lot. But with your Neptune there, so you can, Neptune in the sign of Scorpio in the 7th. Yeah, so you would probably intuit more about people's relationships or your own relationships? Question mark?
More about other people's as opposed to my own.
Yeah, then do that then.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. It was interesting what you said about the sun square the moon as well, and the self-doubt.
It's awful.
Okay.
I've been living it for 60 years. I know exactly what it's like. It's awful. It does stop you getting bored. You know, when you've got sun, moon square, you know, at least you're questioning things. You're not sort of totally lying back and letting life happen. But it does make a lot of inner critic, because the sun is who we are and the moon is how we feel. And if those two things are jiggling about all the time, you've got to find something else in your chart that's the positive. So you need to look for your trines and sextiles, because you can, I mean, this is the point that Adrian Duncan was making in his book, Astrology and Transformation, is that we can spend all day as astrologers pointing out the negatives in people's charts, because they're there. They're all those red lines. Oh, you got this. But that doesn't empower anybody. Let's go for some blue lines, please.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'll ask. Can I ask about mine, or?
Of course you can. Yes, Robin, go.
Can I got Neptune in Sagittarius, and it's in the 10th house, and it's quite close to the MC.
Right on the MC. Oh, bloody hell. Are you sure you don't want to be a psychic for a living?
I don't understand. I find Neptune really. I've been trying to work it out for such a long time. I don't really. I know it was weird. It was more when I was younger rather than being as an adult. So.
Were you more intuitive when you were younger? Is that what you're saying?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And what happened? Did it get kicked out of you, or discouraged, or?
Yeah, very much so.
That's the unfortunate thing. That was what I was saying just now. You know, when people tell me that about their kids, please don't do that. Just listen to what they're telling you, or pay attention to it. So you might need to make friends again with that part of yourself that has that ability. I mean, your sun sign Leo, did I remember that rightly?
Yes.
Right, okay, so that's a fire sign. And then your Neptune's in a fire sign, being in Saggy as well, right? So there must be an aspect between your sun and your Neptune. What aspects does your Neptune make?
It goes, it's talking to Pluto in the 8th house. Then it goes to the moon in the 6th house.
And what's the sign of your moon?
Virgo. It's Cancer.
Oh, squishy little Cancer. Okay, so moon's happy in the sign of Cancer.
Yeah.
It's like the sun's. Oh, I must have said that when we talked before. The sun's happy in the sign of Leo, and the moon's happy in the sign of Cancer. But it's a difficult, well, not difficult. It's an unusual combo to have. Yeah, to have sun in its sign and moon in its sign and moon in it, because the sun in Leo is I'm here and let's do this and have fun, and then the moon is in a soft Cancer sign, so you're going to feel lots of stuff. So you might have had to have amputated quite a lot of your feelings at some point in life as well.
Yeah, the moon's very sensitive.
Absolutely. What house is he in?
6.
Yeah, sensitive and worried.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to worry a lot. Moon in the sixth house is the house of health, healing, and downside to that is worry. What's your ascendant?
Aquarius.
Okay, so you're going to want to do weird and wacky and unusual stuff anyway. You're going to be more drawn to that because Aquarius is the sign of the unusual and the original, so you're not going to want to follow the other path that other people have done. Yeah. But in answer to your question about your Neptune, so look at the aspects, but with it being on the MC, it might be that you don't recognize that you are, but other people, because the MC is how other people see us at work, in the work situation, they might think, oh, actually, he's quite, Robin's a bit of a psychic bloke really about this aspect of whatever it is you do for work. So it's just, I can't remember what you do for him, but say, for instance, you were a carpenter and you were sort of making some sort of carpentry or whatever, and then people, how the bloody hell did he know how to do that? I didn't tell him the sizes or the dimensions, but he managed to do it. So other people sort of think that that's some sort of innate ability that you've got, but it's not always what we recognize in ourselves, the MC, it's how others see us in a business capacity.
Okay, so it is choosing, because I've talked about that too before, it's about changing career or look at something that's different. Because when I was younger, I used to paint a lot. I like painting and drawing, but I've got no much interest in it. Well, I kind of still do drawing now, but not on the level that I was enjoying it when I was younger. So maybe that's what I could look at, I suppose.
Absolutely. Anything that brings you joy. I mean, we're only here on the earth for, 70, 80, maximum 90, 100 years. You just like make the best of it that we can. Why suffer? And doing things that you enjoy gives you energy to do other things. I mean, it's very easy for me to say that because I absolutely love my job and I'm really lucky I'm in a niche field. And, sometimes people have to work to pay bills, for goodness sake, which obviously I do as well. But I have this, across both aspects of it. But for yourself, with your Neptunes in Sagittarius, don't forget Sagittarius is the sign of philosophy, further education, and it's a fire sign. Yeah, so it's much more demonstrative. So maybe it would be useful to see other people that have that. So go to astro.com and there's a thing called Astro Twins on there, and see who your Astro Twin is. Or there's another website. I can email me afterwards and I'll give you the name of the website, and then you can put your data in and find somebody else that's got Neptune and Sagittarius conjunct MC. There's a whole way of searching for it. And then, so what did this person do? They've got Neptune conjunct their MC. What have they done for a living? How did they do it? Just sort of compare, get some ideas like that. Yeah,
that'll be good.
Okay, it's maybe you need to use your intuition more in the work that you're doing rather than to keep it. So your sun sign's located in which house?
It's in the workhouse again, 6.
6th, yeah. Okay, so you need to have routine. So the sun and moon are there?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So there needs to be some routine, and otherwise you're going to stress out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Neptune on the MC is cool. Have a look. Email me because I'm going to forget otherwise, and I'll send you the link. It's a French website, and you can put the data in and say this and other criteria, and then it will bring you up some charts. And it's just an interesting exercise to see how other people have managed to live with that aspect in their chart. What did they do as a comparison?
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So, has anybody else got any other questions? Anybody want to ask before we finish?
Mary,
Go.
Look at my chart, please, if that's okay, Maria.
Maria, my darling. Yes. Hello, my sweet. Yes.
Hi. I've got what I can see, Neptune in number 4, Scorpio.
Yep.
Then there's another. It's in Virgo. Yeah, in Virgo, and it's looking at. Hold on, let me find. Oh, Uranus. One of the.
What's in Virgo? Sorry.
Virgo is Uranus.
Oh, Uranus is in the sign of Virgo. What house?
Yeah. 2. I've got Neptune in 4 with Scorpio.
Yeah. And what sun sign are you?
Sun is Gemini.
Okay. Right then, so you've got Neptune in the 4th house, so that's when you were growing up. The 4th house is our roots, when we're little babbies.
Right.
And so your Neptune there would be living near water, in the sign of Scorpio, so you'd feel more intuitive about your family, more probably interested in your family tree, that type of stuff, you know, the roots of the family. But it would be that when you were little, a lot of people with Neptune in the 4th were pretty psychic when they were little babbies. Were you?
Yeah, I used to pick up quite a fair bit when I was younger.
Okay, and what house is your sun sign in Gemini in?
11.
That's groups and friends. Okay, so you're better doing stuff with other people rather than doing it completely on your own. And what aspects does your Neptune makes an aspect to your Uranus in Virgo? Does it make an aspect to any of your personal planets, like your moon or your Mercury or your Venus or your Mars?
Well, the moon's in 11 as well, and it's in Gemini.
Okay, double whammy there. There's 4 people in the room.
And then there's I've got another bit of a square, if you see what I mean, in the 9th house near the MC in Virgo. Don't know if that makes sense.
And what planet is there in the 9th?
Planets I've got in the 9th is Saturn.
Saturn, right, okay. And what sign is your Mercury in?
Number 10, Taurus.
Taurus, okay. So that's going to slow things down a bit because Mercury is how we think. So your Mercury is probably opposite to your Neptune because that's in Scorpio.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got a great. So that's where you need to start. You've got Mercury opposition to Neptune. So Mercury is how we think. Neptune's how we intuit. You need to, because your sun sign and your moon sign are really fast. And your poor little Mercury's trying to catch up. You need to allow your Mercury time to be able to make those connections. What house is your Mercury in? 11th, is it?
No, number 10.
In the 10th house of career, right? Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Opposite your 4th. Sorry, I'm not thinking there. Yeah. Okay, great. So you can do communications at work. So you're communicating at work, This is your home life and stuff. So can you work from home?
Yeah, I can sort of, yeah.
Do some work from home, okay, because the 4th house is home. Do your psychic stuff at home, okay? But you can share it to other people via work. So wherever your psychic things are, do them in the house because the 4th house is the home, the roots, the family, blah, blah, blah. So test yourself a bit, you know, the telephone's going to go at 2 o'clock and then does it or whatever, but you need to slow things down because your Mercury's in Taurus. I've got a friend who's got the same thing. She's a Gemini and she has Mercury in Taurus and she's brilliant with the memory and stuff, but Mercury's going much, much slower than the sun sign. Yeah. So allow yourself time to learn things and time to be able to tune in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you ever so much. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Okay, we're going to have to wrap up. We've done over an hour already. If you have got any questions, then please ping me over an email. I will be saving this and you will be able to watch it. So I'll be sticking it onto my Facebook page. I'll be putting it up onto YouTube. And I hope you've had a lovely evening. I'm going to turn the recording off in a second so we've all got a chance to say goodbye. But thank you very much for being here this evening. My name's Mary English and you can find me at www.maryenglish.com. Thank you.